1 in 5 suffer.
Erase the stigma.
Brain difference is not a crime.
Mental health isn't just your problem.
It's our problem.
And now, Mental Health Mondays with Marla and Dave.
Welcome to Mental Health Mondays with Marla and Dave, and this is a great day because we are continuing our discussion with Jonathan Solomon. But before we get to the discussion, we want to remind you to text the word GIVE, G-I-V-E, to 818-698-1021. Support our campaign, that ongoing campaign, $1 today keeps the stigma away. We need you. We appreciate you. It helps us to continue to bring you this entertaining yet informative and educational content.
And I'm happy to say thank you for everybody last week who helped us reach our ultimate spring goal before we ended our drive, because we're always raising money. We had a fundraising drive, so I'm saying thank you for all who made that possible.
And all who came out to join Marla at the park.
Snack and Chat.
The Snack and Chat.
And stay tuned, because there's going to be a new announcement in the next, we're going to do another one in 6 weeks, and we're going to be headed into the inner city because we want to be able to continue to raise awareness in the community.
Along with his wife, Geneva, Jonathan Solomon is the owner of Redstone Firearms, which is the largest firearms dealer in Black-owned firearms dealership in Southern California. We had a great discussion last week, and this week will not disappoint.
And Jonathan, we've asked Jonathan this week to go a little bit deeper with us. I'm going to share my story, and we're going to get additional tips. By default, I've become, unfortunately, very versed with de-escalation when it comes to your mentally ill loved one who is in a violent episode. And so we're going to talk about how I've handled that to now, and get additional information from Jonathan, and he can hopefully give us something else or just add to what we already know so we can help do this for our families.
Absolutely, and we will have a great discussion when we come back.
When Dave and Marla get together, it's hot.
Mental Health Mondays with Marla and Dave and NAMI San Fernando Valley believe it doesn't take much to make life a little better for our neighbors, coworkers, friends, our family members, even our children who suffer with mental illness. When you support our $1 Today Keeps the Stigma Away campaign, you are doing your part to erase the stigma surrounding mental illness. For just $1 today, or $1 a day for 1 week, just $7, we can look forward to a future that does not include the unfortunate and uncomfortable stares, bullying, and the subsequent isolation that our loved ones who suffer with brain differences deal with. Text the word GIVE, that's G-I-V-E, to 818-698-1021 to donate. $1 today keeps the stigma away. Brought to you by Mental Health Mondays with Marla and Dave and NAMI San Fernando Valley.
All right, once again, we welcome Jonathan Solomon.
Thank you guys for having us back. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm going to jump right into the conversation that most of us who have an adult that we have chosen to love beyond reason and support, generally, and I remind people, and I look in our audience, and for those who may not have experienced yet, but too many of us are familiar, remember that mental health crisis is something that is you have to manage. It's ongoing. It's not a cure for a mental health crisis. And I learned that, to be honest, when our son was coming through addiction. And I was thinking, oh, he's decided to get sober, and so we're good. And the first thing they taught us was expect relapse. It's part of the process of recovery. And I was like, what? So when it's dealing with mental health, it's very much the same. And we've experienced multiple episodes when our son goes back out of balance. And, we're blessed that he is one of those ones that really has agreed to trust us enough to stay on his regimen of meds and therapy.
Yeah.
But we have had some issues where those things have had some gaps. So one of the things I'm going to walk through de-escalation, some of the things that I've had to learn to do, because of course my de-escalation issues, they don't include a weapon. And so, right. So we talked about safety. What would be your suggestion for a responsible gun owner that has a mentally ill loved one in residence?
So the initial incident that happens that sets off this understanding that there's some mental health issues going on should be the first and foremost warning that, hey, I need to have some way to lock these weapons up, keep these weapons out of reach, right? And maybe possibly have additional safes or locks throughout the home that if this mental health issue occurs or this episode occurs while you're in a different room that your weapon may not be in, that you can, throw it in a lockbox real quick, maybe a digital lockbox or a biometric lockbox where you can just rapidly throw it in there and it's locked now.
That's actually a good idea.
Okay.
That you have portable.
Right. And then not only do that, but make sure that lockbox is locked down to something so it can't be picked up and used as a weapon. Exactly.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I have learned is, and I'm sure just in being around weapons and working with safety and educating, how you respond verbally in those moments is essential. There's always, by the time your loved one gets there, what I can guarantee you about everybody, regardless of the root of the cause, they are at the height of agitation. So yelling, screaming, name calling is a hell no. Just do not. The quieter you go, the more you can begin to at least you can de-escalate their sensory by not adding to the situation. That's one thing that I've learned.
I even take it a step further, and that is not just making sure that you're bringing a calming energy to the environment, but also reassuring the person that you're talking to, the person that is episodic at the moment. Because a lot of times when you're episodic, you're so delusional. You think that you're alone. You think that others are coming at you in ways that they are not. Your perception is just... That's why you're in an episode. Your perception is just thrown off. And so not just bringing in calming energy, but also reassuring them of the love and the care and the support that you have for them as well.
Right. And that's one of the things that I know helps, but there's other things that could help, which is, and Marla and I talked about this previously, is being very observant, right? Unfortunately, I've been involved in crisis where we've had children, as I was working as school police, where that doesn't work for them, right? You have to notice and be observant to what they may be wearing, what they may have on in their backpacks, what they're looking at on their phones, because those are the things that may or may not help calm them, right? So we had an episode where a young lady was literally upset and she just would not calm down.
Right.
And I was able to talk to her about her shoes that she was wearing, which took her focus off of what the mental health issue was at that moment.
A little distraction, really.
Right. Which was then able to now start to bring her down and de-escalate her from where she was mentally. So those are things that you need to be aware of when we're dealing with folks who have mental health issues, is observe. See what it is that's around them that may or may not be feeding into it, or even help them come down off of this.
And I'm
sort of like constantly taking the temperature of the environment when it comes to mental health and things that could possibly escalate.
Right.
Okay.
You know what else is interesting? I'm going to say this. I think your worst enemy in a situation where you have a loved one who has an episodic history is denial. And I'm saying that because exactly what you made me think about as well is that observant key. There are triggers that are consistent, and denial will stop you from preparing your environment to be able to be a safe place to manage an issue that may come up. And so I will say this, that we as African American people need to learn this lesson more than anybody else, because you're not getting a second chance to have a calm conversation. And I'm just keeping it all the way real.
Right.
It's news that, when it's shoot first in a case of question most of the time for us. So what I'm advising parents to do is listen to this conversation very closely. And we gave you a couple tips. Here's another one. Secure the area in advance. And so when I say in advance, it's usually all of the other elements that are taking place that cause the error, because the police are not there to administer therapy. They're called for a situation that needs to be there to be protected. So if you have a screaming parent and you have other kids running around, so I know that when our son has gone into these issues, we literally, as police are on their way, we clear our house. So when they pull up, they say, is there anybody else inside? No, it's our son. Is he armed? No, he is not. Does he have a weapon? He does not have access to a weapon. There's nothing in the kitchen but a knife, a kitchen knife. Right. That's it. And he doesn't. So you literally are using that.
Yeah, and I agree but that only speaks to one side of the issue, because you don't usually find African American students coming in with black trench coats shooting up all their friends at school. So there's both sides of that issue, and you're talking about interactions with law enforcement. There's also
Yes.
the thing that I think that we also need to touch on, and Jonathan can help us with this, is the parents who might also be gun owners, so they're desensitized to the nature of having a firearm in the house, even though they're a teen or a young adult or even child might be showing some signs that, that might be a norm in your house, but maybe you need to be a little bit more secure at home.
Absolutely. And one of the ways of initially securing at home is not being oblivious to the signs that something may be wrong,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
with the child and with their mental health, right? Yeah, we all want to protect our families. We go out, we purchase weapons to protect our family, but who's going to protect your family from your family if
Right.
you're not paying attention to what's going on at home?
Right, and also let's speak to the sort of the idea that we shouldn't tattletale or kind of roll on our family members who we know are dealing with issues and sort of start to protect them instead of saying, hey, maybe this we should put this person on that roster of people who aren't allowed to have a firearm or have access to firearms, which brings up another question. If a person in the home is on the roster, how does that reflect on the other members of the
That's
home
a
that
good
are not
question.
on the roster?
So it doesn't.
Hold on. Jonathan is going to answer that very important question. If there's someone in your house that's on the roster, how does it affect those in the same home that are eligible to be firearm owners? That is the answer that Jonathan is going to give us when we come back. And we will be back. See you in a minute.
It's time for the Mental Health Minute with Marla and Dave.
Mental health problems and substance use disorders sometimes occur together. According to mentalhealth.gov, this is because certain illegal drugs can cause people with an addiction to experience one or more symptoms of a mental health problem. Or mental health problems can sometimes lead to alcohol or drug use, as some people with mental health problems may misuse these substances as a form of self-medication. Then there's mental and substance use disorders share some underlying causes, including changes in brain composition, genetic vulnerabilities, and early exposure to stress or trauma.
More than 1 in 4 adults living with serious mental illness problems also has a substance use problem. Substance use problems occur more frequently with certain mental health problems, including depression, anxiety disorders, schizophrenia, personality disorders.
If you or anyone you know is dealing with a dual diagnosis of substance use disorder and or any other mental health condition, please seek professional help.
This Mental Health Minute is brought to you by Mental Health Mondays and Marla and Dave.
David is a thinker.
I never do anything without thinking about it first.
Marla is a feeler.
I basically live my personality on my sleeve.
But when Marla and Dave get together, it's like a match dancing with a firecracker.
And we're back.
And we're back. Somebody
We are
move.
back. So, Jonathan, do you remember what that question was?
I can ask him again, I
when
know.
when there's someone in the home that, because of their mental health or any other issue, puts them on the roster, how does that affect the other members of the family who might not be on that roster of people who should not have a firearm
Should all
or have
abstain?
access to?
So that's kind of a twofold question, right?
Okay.
A twofold answer, I should say. It's a slippery slope, okay? Yes, that particular person may not be able to possess or have a firearm, but they can still live in the same house as someone that can possess or have a firearm, right? The person who owns that firearm is responsible for keeping that out of the hands of that prohibited person. And then part of that question that you had asked was if the family members feel that they need to notify authorities so that that person can't get a weapon, that again is a very slippery slope. Yes, you can absolutely do that, but sometimes family members lie to be vindictive. What if that person is truly not suffering from mental health, but they use that as a tool or a tactic to get
To oppress the other family member,
to get
yeah.
what they want.
Now, that's what happened, to be honest. That's how the mental health system, whether you know it or not, that was the reason that Reagan took away all of the mental health hospitals and things of the sort services here in California, because it was being misused. People were being institutionalized.
Yeah, just at the word of family
unjustly
members
because
who were just being
family members
vindictive.
are like, they're not well, lock them up.
Yeah, so how do we strike that balance?
If I had an answer for you on that, I think we'd all
we
be.
wouldn't be here. We'd be
Yeah.
on a
I
we'd
think
be on an island.
that is really at the basis of this argument of mental health versus gun ownership,
Right.
and
It's a very
access
much
to
so-
guns.
Yeah, it's a very much so case by case situation. But
So-
if we look at it, it's again, the gun is just a tool,
Right.
right? We've had incidents here in California where people have used vehicles, they've used knives, they've used other improvised explosive devices to do the same amount of damage they would with a weapon. So it's again case by case basis on how we deal with that.
So here I'm going to walk you through a scenario, and I want you to give me the three things that you would suggest in this scenario. You have a violently episodic 30-something, or let's just call it a very, an adult, an able-bodied adult male in the home with family, mostly women, and there is no gun available. But what would be the top 3 de-escalation things that come to your mind that you would suggest to be able to bring this family member under control?
Okay.
From a tactical perspective.
Yeah, from a former law enforcement perspective, there's something called verbal judo, right? That's using your words. So if that's not working, now you need to go to your escalation of force continuum, where, yeah, you may need to use some type of physical restraint or some type of physical force, pepper spray, taser, something along those lines. Unfortunately, pepper spray and tasers don't work on everybody.
Right.
Right? So then you have to escalate to something along the lines of maybe a beanbag gun or something along those lines, right? Unfortunately, those don't always work
Right.
on someone. Those are 3 there. Sometimes you may just have to get down and dirty, and it's just going to be a fight. It's going to be an all-out physical fight,
Right.
overwhelming force.
Or you just, or you can, or right. Or
You're just going to have to go hands-on.
right.
But it is not always necessary to escalate that to lethal force.
Right.
And I think the first thing, we say this all the time, in any type of escalation or escalating event, 911 immediately. Call 911, and then those steps that you're talking about. If in the meantime you need to actually go through those steps to keep yourself safe, and a lot of times it's to keep your loved ones safe as well, or maybe someone who might be in the home that might not be part of the family, to keep their lives safe as well. But calling 911 is always, that's the first step.
Well, the one thing I also want to remind everybody that we learned with our couple of weeks ago, that there's a new emergency number that will be in place come July, 988.
Correct.
It's for mental health emergencies, and that's amazing. So there's 911, there's 411 for information, and now there's 988 for mental health emergency use.
Absolutely.
So that's good. But again, I remind, and I asked Jonathan, he gave me exactly what I asked for, which was the 3 things he would suggest in a tactical situation. But
Absolutely.
I will say, bringing the emotional energy out of the area from a completely, kumbaya standpoint, that we should get everybody, you clear, first of all, the area. Number 2, completely bring the emotional energy down to nothing. And even if it's non-responsive to you, let them be the ones, and then assist if law enforcement is involved. Assist law enforcement that shows up by educating them on what they're dealing with and introducing yourself in relationship to the one who is you've had to call the police on, which I've had to do, and you let them know you're there to work with them, not against them.
Absolutely. And one of the key things that you just said is introducing yourself to them. Law enforcement is coming to contain the situation.
Correct.
That's all they're there for. All right. You need to let them know prior to them getting involved. And what I mean by that is engaging verbally, physically, whatever. You need to have that conversation with them quickly, effectively, and to the point before they get involved with the situation.
Right. So they realize that they're not dealing, just with a killer. They're actually dealing. There's a video that anyone can go watch, to be honest, on my Instagram that was in real time of a de-escalation situation with our son. And I used that as an example of showing how 2 officers were able to de-escalate him in the middle of a very charged and a violent episodic situation.
And that's more important than people might know, because
And Marlo talks.
when police officers arrive on a scene, a lot of times, especially in our community, they already anticipate pushback from family members and members of the community. And so they're already uneasy. Not only do they need to contain the situation, but they have to contain the entire situation from a broader perspective.
Right. And just to give you an insight, a perspective to it, when law enforcement is on the way to a call, they don't have all the answers to the questions that they're running through their heads, right? So they're asking dispatch, which dispatch is now asking whoever's on the phone for information.
Right.
That information can come across wrong, so they immediately have a wrong approach when they get there.
Got it.
So you need to be able to convey the correct information immediately as they arrive on the scene. Good
point. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to. It doesn't seem like the answer to that question that we started talking about last week, and we've touched on a little bit today, between mental health and access to firearms. It doesn't really seem like it has anything to do with either of those issues. And the reason why I say that, to me, maybe the answer is better relationships in general between members of the community, because it seems like, to me, it always breaks down around the fact that one faction of the community is really angry or upset with another part of the community, and the anxiety, the angst, the stress in the community is already way too high. And it doesn't, it wouldn't have to be a gun. I'm just so angry, I'm going to do something I shouldn't be doing anyway.
That's absolutely correct. And that's one of the things that we need to start addressing in the community, is that the community is not against each other. Just because you see something that's different than I see something doesn't mean that we can't come to a conclusion and have the same understanding of that same issue.
When we come back, I can fix the situation with 3 words. You remember I said it. I'm going to give you those 3 words when we come back from this break.
All right, it's poll time. This week, Marley will be doing the dance. Go. That's a little constipated on that dancing. There it is. Oh, yeah. All right. Last week.
Wait, I don't get money. I broke into the...
Do you want money first?
Never mind. Not on Mental Health Monday after the show, though.
The question last week was, how many people worldwide live with a mental health disorder? Your options were 250 million, 500 million, or 1 billion with a B. Jonathan guessed last week.
1 billion is what he said.
1 billion and ding, ding, ding.
Dang, you should have let me make him think he was wrong.
Well, he was right.
Just let me.
He was absolutely right.
Little guess torture is the
Which
only
is-
fun I can get.
You know, which so far he has been 2 for 2.
Jonathan is 2 for 2. What the heck? Mental health.
Next week, our question. This is our question for next week. What is the number of U.S. adults with schizophrenia?
Whoa.
Is it 500,000? Is it 1.5 million? Or is it 3 million? Number
what
of
is it,
U.S. adults
Jonathan?
with schizophrenia.
I'm going to go with 1.5 million.
We'll see where you go next week. We'll be back next week to make sure that Jonathan's wrong, even if he's right. No, we'll let you know what the answer is. And make sure that you cast your votes. Go to our social media sites, and there's the poll question right there. We'd love to hear your voice. Vote. All right. I said that I was going to come back before we turn this over to Jonathan for our close, and I can fix all of this with 3 words. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Education, education, education. It is missing in everything we do. We are not educated about mental health. We are not educated about weapons. We are not educated about self-defense. We are not educated about handling crisis at all. We need to be educated. And when you listen, Jonathan started last week, which is amazing, and we appreciate you for coming on and sharing your information and knowledge with our show and our listeners. You started with education, with you being educated as a child to gun safety with a grandparent. So I'm just saying, you know, that look how that has shaped who he is, and now we all get the benefit because that was a foundation.
Absolutely.
Education is definitely the key.
Now, we said it last week, Jonathan. How can people find you at Redstone Firearms?
So,
Hold on. Because I want you to give after you give that, I know that you guys teach classes. Give us the best class to start their gun education with Redstone.
So the best class to start is going to be my wife's class, which is online. Okay, that's the online basics class. She's taken some of the stuff that I've taught in class, in person, made it better by adding in laws, the information when it comes to prohibited persons, because that's important, right? Because some people don't even know they're prohibited,
Right.
so we gotta educate them. But the online classes is where you want to start, and then you come in and take your FSC test with us, which is a 30-question test. You get licensed by me, and then you're now eligible to purchase in the state of California.
And then you purchase a gun, and then what happens? You hold their gun hostage for days, right? And then somebody can't come get their gun for days, right? Because that's the law, right?
That's
and
unfortunately correct.
And then
but,
people
yeah,
cry because, not me necessarily, but maybe.
I'm still wiping up tears from the last time.
Well, again, tell us how to find you at Redstone Firearms.
So you can find us online at redstonefirearms.com. Email Geneva at Redstone Firearms.
Please spell
just
her name.
I was just going to say, just like Switzerland, it's GENEVA at redstonefirearms.com. On Instagram at Redstone Firearms, as well as Redstone Jonathan. That is our backup page. And Redstone Creative. Please reach out to us if you have any questions for training, education. We're here for you.
Well, you've been there for me. I don't know now. I've torn up all my dresses, and I've everything I wear is fatigue. I wear fatigue. I'm going to wear fatigues to the Grammys next year. I'm going to wear fatigues everywhere I go. Fatigue dresses, fatigue skirts, fatigue bonnets, fatigue shower caps, Dave. I'm fatiguing.
And I'm just fatigued.
Jonathan, on a serious tip, we thank both you and Geneva for coming forward and being just a responsible part of our community personally and our community overall.
And we thank you for having us on and sharing the information with the community.
For sure. And
Absolutely.
I'm going to come to Redstone. Hey, guys, if you go to Redstone at the just exact right, you have to go multiple times. You have to buy multiple guns because that's how you find out what times that there's food at Redstone. And it's not all the time, but if you're really good at what you do at doing investigative reporting like I have, you just show up.
We want to remind you that. Oh, you're not done. I'm sorry.
No, so I was just reminiscing. I was hungry.
We want to remind you that our fiscal sponsors are NAMI San Fernando Valley and Loving Beyond Reason Foundation. And we're Marlon Dave. And remember, your overall health has to include your mental health. See you next week.
Bye.